So now we have come to the end of this course, and today's topic is basically the last topic, and after that I'll probably take one more lecture in discussing a couple of examples. Okay, and the topic that we require to cover now is regarding dynamics under special relativity formalism. So far we considered the kinematics in the sense that we were dealing with space and time itself and looking at its effect on the perceived or measured time and distances as well as the speeds. And now we are going to look for the dynamical effects, right? And the way we can look at these dynamical effects is in terms of an expression for momentum and energy as seen or as appropriate under this relativistic formalism. Right? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll again do this by using demonstrative example derivations, right? And for momentum, so let's start with the relativistic momentum. So first of all, we have to kind of start with the premise that the relativistic momentum is going to be different from the normal momentum that we understand so far. However, not in the sense that we are going to change its definition. So we are still going to consider it as the amount of movement or the amount of motion in the system. However, since we know that when we define something like that in our normal Newtonian mechanics, we give an expression P equal to mv, where there is a mass and there is a velocity. Now again, velocity is a kinematical term, and we know that here it's going to change because the whole idea of velocity or the speeds are now different, because the way we measure distances and the way we measure time itself is different under a different framework. So that is one effect. And another could be, what about that proportionality constant, right? The mass as we perceive in day-to-day mechanics could also have a different understanding under relativistic formalism. So with this, let us try to kind of get an expression for this relativistic momentum, right? And for that, what I am going to do is, I am going to consider a system of two particles of same mass, so identical particles, let's say, and we look at their collision. Right? So because we have done this collision, we know that momentum is an important aspect of collisions, mainly because under if there are no external forces, then for a closed system the momentum is always conserved. Right? So let's start with that and see if we can derive an expression for the relativistic momentum. So consider a system which is right now I am looking at it from a so-called absolute inertial frame, right? So I don't actually have to define what I mean by that. It's just that in, let's say, some inertial frame, the system, or let's say in my laboratory, the system is that two particles A and B approach each other, right? So they are sort of approaching about this line, okay? And that will be then the minimum impact parameter, a minimum closest distance of approach, and they undergo glancing collision, right? So they are kind of approaching each other and undergo glancing collision, and the collision is such that initially they are moving about this x-axis, along this x-axis, like of course the directions are different, with certain velocity, and they also have this y velocities equal, but again in opposite direction. So it's a symmetric collision, right? And then the effect of collision is to change the directions ever slightly, such that after the collision, all that changes is, so that's the asymptotic limit, all that changes is the y velocity or the y speeds of the particles, and again change in the sense that they are just going to be reversed rather than any sharing of energy between these two. So they both maintain the same energy content as they have, and the x velocities remain exactly the same. So they keep moving in the same direction, only slightly deflected. Okay. So this is the system that under consideration, right? And now do I want to describe? No. Okay. And let me define momentum now for such a collision system, right? So momentum, and rather I have defined sort of a relativistic momentum, right? And let me write it down as P to M. And now I am saying that, of course, I know how the kinematic terms acquire form under this formalism. So velocity is not my problem. I'm still trying to define this as p equal to mv. So velocity is not my problem. I can always write it down, right? And let us say some velocity w, right? However, I'm also trying to say, or I'm also having the assumption that proportionality constant, the mass, the inertial mass that we are considering, let us also see if there is an effect on that, right? So let us say that momentum, relativistic momentum, is defined as exactly similar form, mv, where w is now the velocity, so mw. However, mass is not a constant. It's not a constant in every frame. It depends on the velocity or the speed of the particle itself. Okay, so let's start with that. And what we'll see is, if let's say we find out after the analysis that this is actually comes out to be a constant and it in principle does not depend on velocity, then so far so good. We'll be happy to consider this as an inertial mass, right? Okay. Let us consider a frame. So consider a frame moving with particle A, right? Such that, so now I'm going to look for this collision. Of course, the momentum is conserved, then it's conserved in all inertial frames because all inertial frames are identical. So the nature of physical laws is not going to change. And using that premise, let me consider a frame which is now moving with this particle A in x direction, right? So along x direction. And what that basically means is that now I can write down velocity of particle A in x direction as 0, because now that becomes the origin of my frame. Velocity of this in y direction is, let us say, u0. And in this frame now, I'll call it frame 1 for time being. In this frame now, velocity of that particle B in x direction is, let us say, v, and velocity of this particle in is again u0. And of course, so for this relativity formula, I'm right now not going to differentiate between vector and scalar to that extent, because we are not actually looking at those effects. However, if I want to write it more correctly, then this is 0. This is actually going in negative y direction compared to the frame that I set it. This is then in the other direction because it's approaching A, and this is then in plus u0, right? However, not u0 but u0 by gamma, because we know that now considered from a frame coinciding with A, B will have this, the velocities will be under relativistic addition, right? And so this is then the relativistic velocity. And okay, so let me not write down this these velocities here. I'll just write them down as, let's say, v0, because v0 is in the velocity in that inertial frame. But we'll look from A, let's say the relative velocity between A and B is then v, and the y component of this is then, it was u0, but then because A is now my frame, then the velocity in B direction will also have this relativistic correction. So it will be u0 by gamma, right? This we did. When we did velocity addition, we found out that even in perpendicular direction, there is a correction because of the motion with respect to the frame, right? Okay, so then this is my initial condition, right? And let us say, so this is initially, right? So before collision, and after collision, now here. So since we are considering this particular collision where only the y component is being reversed, so then let's say v prime ax is again equal to 0, and v prime ay is now plus u0. V prime vx is, it's still going in the same direction, so I'll write it down as minus v, and v prime by is then minus u0 over gamma, because there should be a flipped direction. Right? So this is the initial final collision condition, and now what I can do is I can apply conservation of momentum. Right? So let us do that. So applying momentum conservation in x direction first. So let's say in x direction. So in x direction, initial momentum of particle A is 0. Final momentum of particle A is 0. Initial momentum of particle B is with velocity v. So this momentum, and final here. So we can write this down as pxi is equal to pxf, right? The momentum, and then pxi is nothing but well, from here minus m w, and just to differentiate wb, because for A the speed is 0, and v, this is the initial momentum, right, starting from there, and the final momentum again this is 0 and this is minus m w prime b and then v, right? Well, what is w? W is the speed, total speed of particle P before collision and after collision. So if you look at here, then we can also write down WB is nothing but square root of v square plus u0 square over gamma square, and WB prime is, okay, I actually assumed it here. I can make it more general and just say that the speeds after this thing are u prime and u prime over gamma, and we'll see that they'll actually come out to be u naught. So anyway, and W prime is then v square plus u prime square over gamma square, right? Okay, very good. So now we have these values, and from here what we'll see is basically the speeds will cancel out. So this gives us that the mass with whatever dependence it has on WB is same as mass with the dependence it has on WB prime. And looking at the symmetry of the problem, the simplest simplest inference we can get from here is that WB is equal to WB prime, and also, and if this is the case, then looking at here we can say that u prime is u0, right? So we can, of course, that's also clear from the symmetry of the problem. However, we can also show it in this case, right? And this is the simplest way of equating this m dependent on WB and m depending on WB prime before and after collision, right? And now what we do is, now we look at the same thing, the conservation of momentum, and let us now apply this to y direction. So conserve momentum in y direction, and what is the y momentum? Initially I have this one moving with u0, so now let me write down m wa total speed, and then speed along the y direction, and negative sign because it's in other way around. This one initially is m wb and again u0. Finally, in the final channel, we know that the velocity is simply reversed, right? So this will be then m again wa and u0 now minus, u0 by gamma, and minus m wb and u0 by gamma, right? And if this is the case, then basically what it gives us is that 2m wa is equal to 2m wb by gamma. Sorry, I'll get this thing, right? So this is what we get, and of course we know that A and B are identical particles, so there is no real need of me putting here W and WB. However, I have put in there because I am saying that the mass is dependent on velocity, and the velocity on the speed, and the speed of A and B is not the same, right? Because we are looking from A's frame. So WA in this case, now let us write it down explicitly. WA is simply U0, and WB, right, is, and of course I could have started with this prime thing here, but then we established that it's the same, so I omitted the prime there. And WB is, what is it in this case? So let us write it down as, well, for time being I'll write it down as W, right, and divided by gamma, and this implies, for W is nothing but V square plus U0 square over gamma square, but for shortness I'll just keep it there. So what we see is this mass dependence on the speed W is then related to this speed U0, right? And now what we can see is that, let us consider a particular case where, so we have got this relation for mass, and now let us say, let U0 tend to 0, right? So just a head-on collision, right? So whether that's simplest collision, so let us say U0 tends to 0. What this also implies is that if U0 tends to 0, then we know that my W tends to V, right? The relative velocity between B and the frame, right? So because W was square root of V square plus U0 square over gamma square. So in this case, and therefore we can write down M at velocity V, so mass, the initial mass at velocity V for a particle which is moving at velocity V towards along the frame coordinate, MV is then equal to gamma M 0, right? Where 0 is basically means that U0 equal to 0. So again, what is the significance of putting U0 equal to 0? If I put here U0 equal to 0, that means A is basically stationary, right? It's not even moving in the y direction. That's a stationary particle. So I can then write this down as gamma M0, right? And this is the relation that MV is gamma M0, where gamma is 1 over square root of 1 minus V square by C square. So same velocity, right? So gamma factor takes care of the dependence on this speed V, right? And this is my expression that we get using momentum conservation, right? And now what we can do is, now we can write down the relativistic momentum as, well, we started with MV V or MW W. So now this becomes gamma M0 V. So this is then the expression for relativistic momentum. Right? And this term and this mass M0 is termed as rest mass or inertial mass, rest inertial mass of of the particle. Right? So this is the mass as measured in a frame where the particle is absolutely at rest, and then in any other frame where the particle actually is in motion, the dynamical effect, so of course the motion has a kinematic effect that the measurement of length and time itself is changing. The dynamical effect is, in this case, is coming into changing of the mass itself, or the propagation constant basically that we consider as mass of the particle. And later on, I mean, in more advanced courses, you will see that this basically then goes into internal degrees of freedom for composite particles, right, or different forms of energy in case of other effects. Right. Okay. So anyway, so this is how we could arrive at this definition of relativistic momentum. And here onwards, whenever we try to, so this is like for understanding, this is for demonstrating that how we get or how one can try to see these kind of things. However, once you have done this and understood this, all one has to remember is that relativistic momentum is actually gamma m naught v, right? And of course, it will always boil down to the normal momentum in case of in case the gamma is much less than 1, right? So anyway, so this is the relativistic momentum, gamma m naught v. And now what we can do is, we can use this we can use this relativistic momentum to find out what is then the corresponding relativistic energy or the expression for energy, which in case of normal Newtonian mechanics, we nicely wrote down, particularly the kinetic energy, right? We nicely wrote it down as p square over 2m. Right? So we can do that. We can do a similar analysis here. And let us try to do this. So, energy, right? And what we do is, we'll start now to for this. We already know what is the relation between momentum and the force. So let's start with the work energy theorem. And what this states is that the work done is equal to the change in kinetic energy. Right? So work done in taking the particle or system from location A to location B is equal to kinetic energy, and this is equal to A to B force dot dr, right? Line integral of force. This is what we know. Right? And now we also know that force can be written as rate of change of momentum. So now I can write it down as Ka is integral A to B dp over dt dot dr, where now what I am going to do is I am going to use the relativistic momentum here. Right. Okay. Now before coming to that step, let us do some extra manipulation here, right? So that we could basically get rid of this dt term, because intrinsically we know that inherently when we are trying to solve this, this will have the effect of the measurement of lengths in relativistic frames. So we have to consider a particular system, and the time will also change. So rate of change of relativistic momentum will involve relativistic effects on time itself. So let us try to get rid of one of the complications by doing a slight manipulation here. So let us write this down as AB dp over dt dot dr over dt into dt, right? This we can do, and then of course we know that this term is then speed or velocity, and the velocity itself will have relation to the frame, right? So then in some way we are getting rid of the effect of time, and dt can be taken out. So then this becomes A to B dp dot, let us write it down as v. Okay, so then this is the integral that we have to solve, right? And now what we can do is we can use the identity that if we are looking for, let's say, p dot v, right? So delta p dot v, so derivative of this, the small infinitesimal element, then this can be written as dp dot v plus p dot d, right? It's a normal chain rule. So we can use this here. We have to inherit this integral, so we can do that. We can write it down as A to B d of p dot v minus, take this on this side, integral A to B p dot d. Okay, this is nothing but p dot v and limits A to B minus integral A to B, well, p dot dv. Let's leave it like this here, and now we'll start putting the limits. So let's say the limits are such that v at A is 0 and v at B is u. So basically we are doing work. That work energy theorem is for taking the particle from A to B, which way? Such that it starts from rest, and then the work done that we do in taking it from A to B changes its speed from 0 to u. Okay? So that's the limit. So now we can put these limits here. So if this is the case, then now relativistic momentum I have already written as the expression. So let us write it down as m0 v square. So v dot v will be v square, square root of 1 minus v square by c square in going from A to B. Right? So the value of v will depend on these limits a and b, minus this one, which is integral a to b, and then again same thing here. So m0v over 1 minus b square over c square, and then d. So again v dot dv will be simply v dv. So we have got these two expressions, and now we can solve for it. If you put it here, right, and this is equal to what? This is equal to kb minus ka. So let me write it down as delta k. So this will be equal to, let me write the final expression. You can evaluate this. This will be equal to 1 over square root of 1 minus b square over c square m0 b square, right, plus square root of 1 minus b square over c square, so inverse of gamma, m0 c square minus m0 c square. Okay, you can evaluate this by using the substitution. So if you take b square over c square as x, or 1 minus b square over c square as x square, you can do this integral, put the limits properly from here, you will get this expression. So okay, so anyway, so for time being we have not put the limits, I'll just write it down as here, and then a to b, right? And now let's put the limits. So then this is going to give me 1 over 1 minus u square over c square m0 u square plus okay. So while evaluating this, I think I have already put limits. So this one basically is already u plus square root of 1 minus u square over c square m0 c square minus m0 c square. So all I implore you is to do this properly, so that there are no skip steps there, right? And now we can solve for it, and what we'll get is that, again, one can consider that the kinetic energy at v when the velocity is zero. So we can write this as the kinetic energy, gain kinetic energy of the system, right? So let's just say gain kinetic energy. So I'm just replacing delta by normal k, and this is then equal to gamma minus 1 m0 c square. So this is the expression for kinetic energy. So this is the relativistic kinetic energy, right? And let's write it down as the same relativistic kinetic energy of a particle on which, due to work done, right, W VA, and taking it from A to B, right? So because of force, there is some work done on the system, and that work done helps in increasing the kinetic energy of the system, and this is then the kinetic energy, right? Now what we can do is we can do a quick check, right? So let's say if beta is much less than 1, so check. If beta is much less than 1, this implies that gamma, which we write it as 1 minus, well, in this case u square over c square, so we can Taylor expand it and then write it as 1 plus u square over half c square plus the higher order terms, right? Only when u square over c square is actually much less than 1, which will be true for low velocity events where v by c is much smaller than 1. And now if we replace this here, what we'll get is, we'll get k equal to half m0 v square or u square, which is your non-relativistic kinetic energy, right? So under low velocity limits, we can get the non-relativistic expression that we derived from the work energy theorem. And if we use the relativistic momentum, then basically we get the relativistic kinetic energy like this. And to end this topic, the final equation that one needs to write down. So let's start with k equal to gamma minus 1 m0 c square. And now what we can do is we can do some rearrangement and write down gamma m0 c square as k plus m0 c square, where k is the kinetic energy in the system. m0 c square is basically an energy term, when we find that it has dimensions of energy, right? So it's not an energy term. And what is this gamma m0 c square? This is nothing but mc square, where now m is the mass of the particle under motion with whatever velocity v. So mc square is then basically the energy plus this energy, and this is termed as the total energy of the system, right? So, in other ways, we can write down this famous equation E equal to mc square, which is basically gamma m0 c square, and which then basically is simply this, right? So this is the famous Einstein equation equal to mc square, which basically says that total energy of a particle under motion is its kinetic energy plus the rest mass energy. So this term is then termed as the rest mass energy of a particle under motion, right? And in most of the cases, when gamma is much less than 1, right? When this is the case, gamma is close to 1, when this is the case, then we know that we don't have to worry about the rest energy, because you will see that the rest energy will come out to be much larger than the kinetic energy. However, it's going to be a constant, so it's just an additive constant between the initial and final system, and all that changes is the kinetic energy, and then we can simply write down this kinetic energy as half m naught u square. However, as we'll see in the examples, if we go and pump in more and more energy to the system, right? For example, like this, when we do more and more work, what we'll see is the energy will also go into increasing the mass of the system, and that way then the kinetic energy, or the energy that is there in the motion, right? If we just consider this half m0 v square, then this will not increase infinitely, because v square can only go up to, v can only go up to speed of light. Rather, that whatever additional energy is there will go into increasing the mass of the system or the internal structure of the system. But anyway, more on that later. And as far as the concepts are concerned, we are done, right? In terms of relativity, we only had to discuss these important concepts related to kinematics, and then the dynamical aspects of this, right? Of course, one can extend this formalism and get into a nicer form, right, using the 4-vector notation and other things. However, we are not interested right now there, right? And I'll probably take another lecture and cover some of the examples here, and then we will finish off the course.